by not listening to the teacher.
The problem of learning is likely the problem of why. Let me explain with a story. It was Saturday morning, the 13th of May, 1852. Today in the Abnub Kingdom, the three princes of the kingdom would display their horse-riding skills. The king, King Ramses, had invited all his friends and other princes from Ben-Har village, Dahab village, and Farquhar village. The king was excited. Today is the day he would show other kingdoms how smart his heirs are. The 300 special guests of the king were excited too. They wanted to see King Ramses' princes display their horse-riding skills, but things soon started falling apart. As it was the custom in the Abnub kingdom, the first prince of the palace, Prince Nakia, was the first to be called to show his horse-riding skills. Nakia was to show jump in front of the audience, but there was a problem. The 19-year-old Nakia couldn't even mount the horse. King Ramses was furious. To have a prince who couldn't ride skillfully on the horseback was to have a weak king in the future, the king told one of his friends. More so, this is happening right in front of the princes of other kingdoms, the king concluded. Present at the occasion were two princes from Aga kingdom, one prince from Damahar kingdom, and the king of El-Thor kingdom, King Mahmud. If all the princes of Abnub kingdom show themselves to be weak, that would be a shameful thing for King Ramses. He would lose his prestige among the neighboring kingdoms. Many of his rivals would stop fearing him. And most importantly, the next generation of kings will not respect his heirs when the time comes for them to rule the kingdom. At this point, King Ramses remembered how he had been a better warrior than his own father and how he had defeated the Persians as a young boy.
So far, we've only liberated territories the Persians had conquered. Now we are on their territory and we will conquer them.
While King Ramses worries about all these, his second son Prince Masuda had mounted the horse. Masuda did much better than Nakia. He was able to mount the horse skillfully, rode around in good fashion and did a few show jumping, which the audience admired. Compared to Prince Nakia, he performed better, but the king wasn't that impressed. A prince, the king thought to himself, should be the most skillful horse rider in the kingdom. While King Ramses was still thinking, the youngest prince in the kingdom, Prince Horus, was called for his display. Horus was only 15 years old. If his elder brothers, who were 19 and 17, couldn't impress the king, he would probably not do it. The king was worried. And while he was lost in thoughts, he suddenly heard an uproar from the crowd. Assuming his youngest prince had fallen from the horse, King Ramses looked up, but what he saw was a glorious scene. Prince Horus had in fact showed the most impressive horse-mounting skill among all the princes. The king was very happy. At least if his older sons couldn't make him proud, Prince Horus does. But King Ramses was still confused. How could his older sons not be able to impress his guests? How could they not be able to ride horses like princes? How could they perform so poorly since they had the best horse rider in the Abnub kingdom as their teacher? The next day, the furious king called for Bithiah, who had been responsible for the horse riding training of the princes. The king had made up his mind. I will send Bithiah to prison, he told Darius, one of his advisors. My lord, Darius humbly said, I suggest we hear from the princes first. King Ramses thought that could be a good idea, so he asked for the three princes. Nakia, the king started talking angrily to his eldest son, I thought you were a man. I used to see you as my heir until yesterday. The angry king stopped talking for a while. But how could you not be able to mount a horse? The king asked Nakia. I am sorry, my lord, Prince Nakia stammeringly said. I just hate riding on the horse. You? The king turned to Masuda, his second prince. You rode so well, but you did a poor job doing show jumping. Why? Why can't you show jump? The king asked. I'm sorry, my lord, Masuda humbly explained. I got wounded the first time I tried show jumping. But this little boy showed a great skill at show jumping, King Ramses said as he turned to Horus. Prince Horus, the king said with a smile on his face, how come you did so well yesterday? The king asked, who taught you these great skills? At this point, King Ramses was expecting Horus to mention the name of one of the great horse riders in the kingdom, but to his surprise, Horus said to the king, my mother. Nakia looked at Horus in disbelief. Masuda smiled, knowing that Horus's mother couldn't even move near a horse. The king burst into laughter. Lalia? He asked in disbelief. Lalia can even hold a horse, King Ramses said, still laughing. Yes, my lord, Horus started talking. My mother told me stories about King Kosi, the first of Egypt, a woman fighter who won the Battle of Nile in 1764 by tricking her enemies to the river of Nile while she rode out alive. She also told me about King Abanub III of Syria. Horus continues. She told me that King Abanub trained his horse to be able to roar like a lion. So whenever his enemies came near him to fight, he made his horse roar, and while they became fearful, he struck his enemies dead. The king was speechless, but Horus still had more to say. 2 years ago, when you went for the Battle of Kersh, Horus continued, my mother secretly asked Toret, the seventh head, to take me near the battle. I and Toret hid at Kersh Mountain, where I watched you fighting with a horse. When I returned home and told my mother what I saw on the battlefield, Horus said, she told me that the reason why I have to be a great horse rider is that if in the future I become a king, I will need to fight riding on the horseback the way King Kosi the first of Egypt, King Abanub III of Syria, and yourself did. At this point, King Ramses changed his mind about punishing Bithia, their teacher. Horus had done so well with the horse not because of his teacher, but because he knew the reason why he must be a great horse rider. Horus's mother had told him several stories about the usefulness of a horse for a king. She had told him the stories of how great kings in the past used their horse riding skills to defeat their enemies. Horus's mother even took him to the battlefields where he could see for himself how skillful horse riders use their skills. Horus knew why he must be a skilled horse rider, but the other princes, Nakia and Masuda, didn't know why they should be skilled horse riders. Hence, they associated pains with the process of learning how to ride a horse. Horse riding in the above story represents anything you may want to learn in school or outside school. Nakia, Masuda, and Horus represents all of us, students who are trying to learn. Bithia represents all of our teachers. Now, regardless of how important any subject is or how good the teacher or the school are, the foundation of meaningful learning is what Lalia, Horus's mother, did. By showing her son the reason why he needed to be a good horse rider, the boy was motivated to learn.
Our brain has evolved to not to discard information that it thinks has no relevance. So then, if on the one hand you're being asked to memorize or learn, say, formulas, but you do not know why this is the case, then you have this cognitive dissonance of, it seems irrelevant, but I'm being told to remember it, so I'll be punished.
The primary problem with our schools all over the world is that most times, most students don't know the reason why they have to learn what the teachers ask them to learn. Every student in our classroom is asking the same question. Why? Why do I need to memorize the names of all past presidents? Why do I need to learn French? How is this equation useful for my future?
Some of the mistakes, at least in my opinion, that I see being made in education is that the teachers do not explain why kids are being taught a subject. You just sort of get dumped into math and like, well, why are you learning math? What's the point of this?
In his 2009 book, Start With Why, Simon Sinek wrote, "Charisma has nothing to do with energy. It comes from a clarity of why." Nakia and Masuda in my story didn't know why they had to go through so many pains to learn how to ride a horse. Hence, they only saw the pains. Horus, on the other hand, knowing the application of the skills he was learning, could focus on the future victories he would have with the horse riding skill when he becomes a king. Hence, he loved the process of learning. If you are in school, as you watch this video, one of the things you can do to become interested in learning is to study on your own, to know the why of many of the things you're being taught. When your teachers teach you how and what, search Google to know the why. For example, try to know the application of what you're being taught. Visit an uncle who works where what you're being taught is applicable. Watch some videos and ask questions. If you are out of school, I advise you to create a problem before you seek a solution. This is what I mean. Do you want to start a business? Well, it's good to start by reading 100 books about entrepreneurship, but it's better to start a small business first, then start reading about entrepreneurship after you started the small business. This way, you're seeing the applications of what you're learning. For example, since you started a small business, you're motivated to read marketing books because you want to sell more of your products. You're eager to read those books about communication and negotiation because you need to meet some potential investors next month. Now, you don't need anyone to inspire you before you pick up a book about leadership because you'll soon have your first employee. That's what I mean by creating a problem before seeking a solution. Johnny Harris called it creating a state of excited accountability.
Maybe you want to learn how to cook. So instead of just like telling yourself, okay, I want to learn how to cook, you can invite a friend or some friends over for a dinner party and you are going to be the one to cook and you tell them that. If you are interested in the cuisine or the dish that you're cooking and you feel a little bit of pressure because people are coming over to your house, suddenly you've just created a situation of excited accountability.
Do you want to become a great writer? Start writing today. Then pick up a book about how to write well tomorrow. Since what you wrote yesterday was bad, you're motivated to write something better next time. Hence the excitement of learning. So the idea here is simple. If your brain doesn't know why you must learn, it will see the process of learning as boring and useless. Prince Horus was excited about horse riding only because he knew he must be a skillful horse rider. Know the why before the what.